For almost a century, America has been the world's unrivaled superpower, shaping everything from global politics to economics, culture, and even the way nations imagine their future. The US dollar became the backbone of the global economy, American aircraft carriers patrolled the seas, Hollywood movies dominated our screens, and US tech companies set the pace of innovation. But today, the story is no longer so simple. The winds of global power are shifting, and all signs suggest we are witnessing the rise of a new world order where America's dominance is no longer guaranteed. At the center of this transformation stands China, a nation that has gone from being dismissed as a poor, developing state just a few decades ago to becoming the world's second-largest economy and the most serious challenger to US supremacy in generations. China's growth has not been accidental. It has been deliberate, strategic, and relentless. Trillions of dollars have been poured into infrastructure, technology, and education. Entire cities like Shenzhen and Shanghai now rival, if not surpass, their Western counterparts in modernity and scale. And unlike the United States, which has spent much of the last 2 decades bogged down in costly wars and political division, China has carefully played a long game of positioning itself as the alternative power in global affairs. One of the clearest demonstrations of this shift is visible in China's military buildup. Not long ago, the Chinese military was considered outdated, a force designed more for defense than for projection of power. But the world saw a very different picture during China's recent military parades. Hypersonic missiles, advanced stealth drones, 5th-generation fighter jets, and the rapid expansion of the People's Liberation Army Navy all sent a clear message. China is preparing not just to defend its borders but to challenge American dominance, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. The US still spends more on defense than any other nation, over $800 billion annually. But military power is no longer about how much you spend, it's about how quickly you can innovate, and how effectively you can use technology. China now has the world's largest navy by number of ships, and is rapidly closing the gap in areas like cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, and space technology. This military modernization, combined with China's growing political influence, has raised serious questions in Washington and beyond. Can the United States truly remain the undisputed power in Asia, or are we witnessing the rise of a peer competitor that could one day surpass it? But the challenge to America is not only military. In fact, the far greater threat might be financial. Since World War II, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. Oil, international trade, and even global debt have all been priced and settled in dollars. This petrodollar system gave America immense power, allowing it to run large deficits, impose sanctions that cripple rival economies, and effectively shape the global financial order in its favor. But now, this dominance is being challenged by the rise of BRICS, an alliance originally made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and now expanding to include key oil producers like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the UAE. Their shared ambition is simple but revolutionary: to create an alternative to the dollar-based system. Already we are seeing signs of this shift. China and Saudi Arabia are conducting oil transactions in yuan. Russia, cut off from Western financial systems due to sanctions, is trading with India outside of the dollar framework. The more these practices spread, the weaker the dollar's grip becomes. If the dollar loses its status as the default global currency, America will face a crisis unlike anything in its modern history. It won't be able to fund its massive debt as easily. Its sanctions will carry less weight, and the financial leverage it has enjoyed for decades will evaporate. This is not just a symbolic change, it's the foundation of American power being chipped away, one trade deal at a time. The bigger picture here is that we are moving from a unipolar world dominated by the United States to a multipolar one where power is spread across several major players. For much of the post-Cold War era, America enjoyed a kind of global monopoly on influence. NATO, the IMF, the World Bank, Hollywood, Silicon Valley, all of these institutions reinforced its dominance. But in the 21st century, things look very different. China leads massive infrastructure projects under its Belt and Road Initiative, stretching influence across Asia, Africa, and even parts of Europe. Russia, despite facing severe economic challenges, has shown it can still alter the global balance through military actions and energy politics. BRICS is expanding its membership to encompass much of the global south, offering nations an alternative to Western-led institutions. And even countries like Turkey, Iran, and Indonesia are beginning to assert themselves as regional powers that cannot be ignored. In this emerging order, the United States is still powerful, but it is no longer unrivaled. Meanwhile, America itself is grappling with internal challenges that only make this global shift more pronounced. The national debt has surpassed $35 trillion, inflation continues to unsettle the economy, and the country is deeply divided politically with trust in institutions hitting historic lows. Empires, history reminds us, do not always collapse because they are conquered from the outside. More often they crumble from within, undermined by division, corruption, or economic strain. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, even the Soviet Union, all fell not simply because of external enemies, but because their internal weaknesses made them vulnerable to change. Many historians are now asking, is the United States at the beginning of its own decline? Yet it would be premature to declare America finished. The United States still has enormous strengths. Its culture remains deeply influential, from Hollywood movies to the dominance of platforms like Netflix, YouTube, and TikTok. Yes, even TikTok is American-owned outside of China's domestic version. Silicon Valley continues to produce the world's most transformative technologies, from artificial intelligence to biotech to clean energy. American universities remain magnets for global talent, attracting the brightest minds from every corner of the planet. And militarily, despite China's advances, the US still has a global reach unmatched by any other power, with hundreds of bases spanning the globe and a network of alliances through NATO, Japan, South Korea, and Australia. These are not small advantages. They are the backbone of America's resilience, and they may yet allow it to adapt and maintain a leading role in the decades ahead. The question then is not whether America will vanish as a power, but whether it will adapt to a world where it is no longer alone at the top. One possible future sees the US reforming its politics, stabilizing its economy, and forging stronger alliances, allowing it to remain the most powerful country, albeit in a more competitive environment. Another possible future sees China and BRICS steadily gaining ground, creating parallel systems in finance, trade, and technology that gradually erode American dominance. In this world, the US would remain strong, but as one great power among several, not the unchallenged leader. Which of these futures becomes reality will depend on the decisions made in Washington, Beijing, Moscow, and beyond in the coming years. What is certain, however, is that the world is changing. The age of absolute American dominance, the unipolar moment, is ending. Whether this leads to conflict, cooperation, or something in between remains to be seen. But history teaches us that the rise and fall of great powers always reshape the world in profound ways. When Britain's empire gave way, America rose. Now, as America's supremacy is questioned, we may be witnessing the dawn of a multipolar century, one that will test not only America's resilience, but the stability of the entire global order. And as this shift accelerates, one question lingers in the minds of millions. Is this truly the end of superpower America, or simply the beginning of a new chapter in its